Hello Varlets. The promised day has arrived, and the Grim Protocol update has just dropped with a bunch of goodies and changes. With that, I'll bring you through some of the highlights of the patch. Let's get it on. The Grim Protocols brings us a new game mode called Havoc. This is essentially our new endgame experience that will test our skills and push our build crafting to endure against overwhelming odds more than ever. I'll link to a post that goes in depth about what you can expect to do when playing Havoc and how it will all work. Beyond having the challenge, an alluring reward from playing Havoc is going to be a bunch of new cosmetics for each of the classes, as well as a new insignia, frame and title. I believe the title is called Havoc Forged. Kind of nice, I want that now. I'm curious to see how soon before a meta will develop for Havoc builds. On top of a new game mode, we'll also be getting a new mission called Dark Communion, where we return to the carnival to explore its darkest corners. I'm actually really looking forward to playing this map over Havoc just to see how the ongoing narrative unfolds. A huge highlight of this patch is also the introduction of 3 new weapon families. Psykers will have access to a pair of Covenant Blaze Force Greatswords, while Zealots will get to run around with a choice of 2 Minotaurum Relic Blades. These are powered greatswords. And finally, Ogryns, and I can't believe it, are getting an addition to their range arsenal in the form of heavy stubbers, giving them a lot of firepower in the mid to long distance battles. I'll be going in depth in uncovering how best to use these weapons very soon. Now, moving on. With this update, we also have the new event called Cry Havoc, and the conditions for completing it is very interesting. It reads, Commissar Duquesne means to forge untested fighters into reliable soldiers, and soldiers into trustworthy veterans. To make progress in the event, either complete Havoc missions or complete any mission with new rejects who are under level 30. Now, I'm certainly happy to see that the events are attempting to forge some player interaction, probably to help out our brand new PS5 rejects. However, the possible unintended consequence of an event like this is that high-level players will queue into low-level missions and speedrun the map just to get the completions done, thus ruining the new player experience for them. Probably should have thought about this one a little more. Incidentally, a major quality of life update has also arrived with Grim Protocols, player reporting. While it was introduced in a prior hotfix, the system is now live for all platforms as of today. Hopefully this is a robust system with some checks and balances and it isn't half-baked, or worse, doesn't do anything at all. Another change in terms of quality of life is the disconnect punishment for leavers. Now, if you disconnect or Alt F4 to circumvent being downed or to bypass the hogtied state, you will respawn back with the health you had upon leaving instead of coming back with a minimum percentage of health. If you disconnect while hogtied, you'll come back hogtied. No longer will you be replacing a bot that isn't hogtied. If you leave mid-mission and don't come back, it will count as a loss. But for everyone else still in the mission, they'll be able to complete it without an issue and have it count as a win if they succeed. I am very happy about this implementation. While it isn't a big deal by most accounts, watching someone who misplayed, went down, disconnected, and then came back like nothing really happened kind of defeats the purpose of overcoming challenges, especially as being part of a team. I have a grand total of 0 sympathy for anyone who abused the disconnect cheese. Next up, we have some surprise weapon tweaks. The Obscurus Force Sword, if you can remember its existence, got an update to its attack chain, which allows it to have access to a more effective horde clear combo. This new combo can be chained from Heavy 2 into a unique Light tree and back into itself again. On top of this, the sword's Light 2 properties have also been improved. A small note, the dodge distance and speed has increased for both the Obscurus and the Elysee Force Swords by a small amount. We've also got a handful of class changes. Veterans, I'm going to save you some time and say both good and bad that there are no changes to you. Ogryns, you have had your talent tree shuffled up a little, and from what I've been observing and playing around myself, these changes are overall not great. And I'm pretty sure many of the Ogryn players are up in arms about it. I was hoping for something like the recent Psyker changes here, where some nodes were consolidated or linked together in new ways, or dare I even dream, new nodes are introduced and old ones reworked. Shame it had to turn out like this, which had honestly very minimal impact on the Ogryn build crafting, other than really inconveniencing current builds and pissing everyone off. Psykers, my siblings, we have received a rather out-of-the-blue buff to our toughness. Our base toughness is now 75, up from 60. This represents a 25% increase in base toughness and will certainly help in our survivability. The Zealot's Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude saw a buff of sorts where vaulting over objects and ledges will no longer cancel your channel. Lastly, some of the most interesting updates have happened to enemies. Scab and Drake Gunners and Reapers have gotten a fall-off damage buff, making them more lethal at further ranges as now the damage tapers off slower. The hit stun from Gunners and the pushback from being shot by Reapers has been removed. However, Scab Gunners are now chunkier as their hit mass has increased from 2 to 5. You're gonna need a lot more cleave to chop through the groups of them now. In addition to that, both Gunners will now strafe while firing instead of just standing there like a turret. Now, here's the big one. Scab Rager's body center mass is now classified as Carapace. I love this change because it makes Carapace more relevant instead of only being meant for crushers and maulers. This also makes Scab Ragers more threatening because if you're not aiming for the hit properly, you're going to take a lot more time to bring them down or not be able to bring them down at all. Shotgunners from both factions have also received a similar treatment to their gunner counterparts. They have more mass and they no longer push you back with their shots. Finally, the in-combat detection radius for enemies has nearly doubled from 15 meters to 25 meters. Now, I'm not exactly sure what this implies entirely, but at the very least, I assume ambient enemies will now be able to realize your presence earlier and engage you. If you couple this with the buff to gunner fall-off range, it means firefights with scab factions or just gunner walls and shooters is going to be a little more spicy going forward. Some fixes that caught my eye: fixed an issue where ranged hits which penetrated multiple enemies would only be registered as having hit a weak spot if the last enemy was hit on a weak spot. This is a pretty big deal for things like True Aim on the Psyker and the Surge Blessing. I expect to see an increase in efficiency in being able to trigger Surge via True Aim with this fix. Mutants no longer collide with Psyker's Dome Shield after dodging their attacks. This was a very funny one to watch, seeing a mutant unexpectedly faceplant on a dome. The 3 missions of Chasm Station, Magistrati Obulate, and Excise Vault has been returned into the map rotation after being pulled from the last hotfix. Well, that about covers the Grim Protocols update. Lots of new things to do and toys to play with. Now, if you will excuse me, I've got a lot of testing to do. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Varlets.